What's down, people, and welcome back to another episode of Ghetto Gospel. So where we left off at. Last week, we talked about Abraham trying to line up a shorty for his son, and how he made his right-hand man promise not to let his boy marry none of them local women. We also talked about how homeboy went back to Abraham's hometown to find Isaac a wife, and we left off right when he found a little chick, and now we caught up. So just like last week, we got a lot of ground to cover. It's probably gonna be another long one, but we gonna finish out the chapter this week. So we picking up at verse 29. And the first thing it say is that Rebecca had a brother named Laban. And as soon as he seen how Rebecca came back to the house dripped out and heard her story, he ran down to the well to see about homeboy. And Laban was like, "What's down with you, playboy? You blessed yet? What you doing standing out here? I done set the house up for you. I even got a spot for your camels." So Abraham's servant came to the house. The camels got unloaded and fed and whatnot, and they also brought some water to wash homeboy's feet and the men's feet that was with him. Now, it's two things to pick up from that verse. First, we gotta talk about washing feet, because you're gonna see it happen from time to time in the Bible. Back when these folks was living, it wasn't no Soldier Reeboks or G-Nikes or Air Maxes. Folks was pretty much just wearing basic sandals to get from place to place. And when your feet is exposed like that, they gonna get dirty. They gon' stink. You probably gonna get some blisters. It's entirely possible that back then, folks' feet might have been the worst smelling thing on their body. Some folks' feet still be stinking now, and we got shoes and foot powder on the shelf at every Walgreens. Imagine back then. So washing somebody's feet wasn't a small thing, but it also seemed like it was just part of hospitality back then. When God showed up at Abraham's crib a few chapters ago, Abraham asked him to take a seat and get his feet washed. The other thing is this. You see how I say they was gonna wash homeboy's feet and the men's feet that was with him? That tell you he wasn't traveling alone. And it don't say man, it say men, which mean it was at least two of them and probably a lot more, which makes sense. I can't imagine that man just rolled out on 10 camels with all of this drip and no protection. Abraham had trained soldiers in his house, basically his own private security. This dude was his right-hand man who had control of the whole enterprise. I ain't never seen a general travel without a couple of lieutenants and a whole gang of foot soldiers. So they fixed some plates for homeboy and his clique. So then he was like, "I ain't gonna eat nothing until y'all hear what I'm here for." And Laban was like, "What's on your mind, playboy?" And Abe's servant was like, "God done bless my master. He rich. God done gave him flocks and herds, silver and gold, slaves, camels, donkeys, the whole nine. Sarah even bust out a baby boy for him in her old age, and Abraham then gave him all of his stuff. And then he told him all about what Abraham asked him to do, and the promise, and finding him a daughter-in-law, and how he prayed, and then met Rebecca at the well and all of that. So then he was like, when she told me who her people was, I put that gold on her, and then I bowed down and had a little praise break." Then he was like, "So if you're gonna be kind and faithful to my master, say that. If not, say that too, and I'll go somewhere else." So Laban and his daddy was like, "Hey, God did.
God did.
We ain't got no choice in the matter. Here she is right here. Take her and go. Let her be a wife for your master's son, just like God said." And when homeboy heard that, he had another little praise break. Then he pulled out even more stuff, silver and gold and clothes and whatnot, and gave them to Rebecca. And he also laced her brother and her mama too. So everybody ate and spent the night. But when they got up in the morning to head out, Laban and their mama was like, "Let her stay with us about 10 more days and then she could go." But Abraham's servant ain't get to be the right-hand man by just being no fool. He was like, "Don't hold up the mission now that it done been successful. Send me back to my master." And they was like, "Well then let's ask Rebecca if she really want to go then." After they done took all this drip that this man then gave out and agreed to let her go without even asking how she felt on the matter, now they want to get her opinion. So they asked Rebecca, and she ain't hesitate to chunk the deuces at her folks. I got some theories on why, but we ain't gonna see that stuff get fleshed out for a few chapters. And so they sent Rebecca away with her nurse that raised her and Abraham's servant and his entourage. They blessed her and wished her prosperity and buku kids and victory over their enemies and whatnot. And they all got up on the camels and headed out. So Isaac was on his way back to the seeing well. That's the well where God saved Ishmael and his mama, because he had been living down south. And he was out walking in the field when he saw the camels coming. So Rebecca looked up like, who that is? And Abraham's servant was like, that's my master. So she covered her face with her veil. Now we almost done, but we gotta talk about this veil right quick. I can only find this word 3 times in this this half of the Bible. You'll find it more later on, but that's in a different language. Based on what I'm picking up, and I'm coming up with this with not a whole lot to go on, so it seemed like back then, women would put on a veil to show you that she was trying to get smashed. Do what you will with that information. So then the servant told Isaac everything that happened, and Isaac scooped up Rebekah, brought her to the tent that his mama used to stay in, took her as his wife, and loved her. And everybody lived happily ever after until next week's episode. So that's it for this week. If you don't know Jesus, but you're trying to get to know him, check out the first link in the description down there. I'll see y'all next week, and as always, peace, and I hope y'all people straight.